Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart Hustle podcast with our next guest that says we're not just watching kids, we're building foundations for a lot of our children. This is their safe space, their meals, their chance to dream. Jack and Toya, welcome to the show. I appreciate both of you guys because neither of you plan to end up in childhood education. However, you're here. Jack, I'll start with you, man. You come from healthcare. What made you take on childcare center near bankruptcy?
Well, Efrain, first of all, thanks for having us. I appreciate the consistent follow-up. Even even for this podcast today, I must have gotten 14, no less than 14 invites and reminders. So I'm glad you're on top of it, on
You
top
weren't
of your
going to miss
game.
it today, huh?
Yeah, I was not going to miss it today. As much as I usually shy away from these types of things, this exposure. You've been too gracious on on our preview call, and I wasn't going to do that to Toya. So here I am. Why did I get into early childhood? It's a great question. Like I've mentioned in the past, I never thought I'd actually be caring for other people's children. But I think that the opportunity came across my desk back in 2016, coming from healthcare and being of a in service, right, type of industry. Early childhood education is very similar to healthcare, and that's what piqued my interest. And here we had a company, Brightside, that had been doing phenomenal work. Unfortunately, there were some operational constraints or concerns over the span of 25, almost 30 years now, but the 25 years that has caused them, they actually went bankrupt once, and we're on the verge of another bankruptcy, and we're looking for, I guess you can say, a savior or white knight to come in, swoop in, and try to help rebuild the ship, so to speak, and turn around the ship. And that piqued my interest. I think it was a turnaround story. It was the feel-good element. It was the opportunity to give back to society and help create and mold minds of the most young and vulnerable, so to speak,
I
population.
love that.
And that's where I'm at today.
And you didn't do this alone. You realized you needed a team, which is where Toya then comes in. Toya, you jumped from healthcare ops into child care leadership. What clicked? What clicked for you when you first met Jack and you realized, wait, a new opportunity? Obviously, you told me you enjoyed Jack and his love for what he was doing, his energy. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. So I too want to thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you today and talk
You
about
guys
what
are
we
too
do
kind.
here at Brightside. I always want to talk about the fantastic work that we do here. So Jack and I met through a mutual acquaintance, and we had a phone call, and we set some time to meet a week out. And just a few minutes after we set that time, Jack called and said, "Well, can you meet today?" I liked his urgency because that meant he was really interested in doing something great for the organization. So we met, and Jack's passion for what he's doing for children and families and community just really stood out, and it resonated with where I am today. So I'm excited to be here, excited to come to work every day. Jack asks every now and then, "Are you still excited to come to work?" And I am.
I love it. And today your kids are going to be, well, not today, but your kids are going to be watching. So shout out to the kids, right? That they know mama's
Yes.
doing the thing they love to support. So you want to say hello to the kids? They're going to be
Yes, of
watching
course.
this.
Shout out to Joya and Harley, who always are champions for mommy.
There you go. And Jack, you got kiddos as well, don't you?
All right, let me pull out the list. Uh, I first want to say, give a shout out to my wife, Nina, that without her support and the backing and her ability to man the ship back at the house and watch the kids for many years alone, so to speak, while I was out there trying to rebuild Brightside. So thank you, Nina, for always being a supportive spouse and role model for our children. Shout out to my son, Sam, my son, Eli, my daughter, Jenny, and my little one, Ella.
You mentioned your wife being so supportive, and I think women in general are very supportive, and I'm pretty sure that's why you called Toya back. What did that urgency calling Toya back the same day say about the mission that you two were stepping into? And I'll start off with Toya. What do you think that actually meant for you?
It meant that Jack was very interested in moving the organization forward and really meeting the needs of more children and families. And as well, growing the organization so we can employ more people in our neighborhoods and just make a difference throughout. And I just want to say the guys are supportive too. My husband Jules is holding it down all the time
There we
with the
go.
girls. So, and not for nothing, Jack as a partner, he really tries to give everything that the organization needs and that I need specifically in order to keep moving one foot in front of the next.
Jack, how about, I mean, you called her same day. What did that mean to you? And what does it say about the mission?
Well, I think in my life in general, Toya probably knows this. I just try to lead with always a sense of urgency. Like I don't have patience for any delays or procrastination. I think that we as a company, as an organization, there's there was too much to be done. We're impacting way too many lives, um, not only on the children's side, but also on the staff, right, the employees, right. We had to make sure that hey, this is a going concern, that we continue to be a viable organization, and I wasn't going to wait for Toya's call in a week to try to think about it, or for her to sleep on it and change her mind. You got to go in when it's still hot, when the iron's hot, and that's what the urgency was.
What I love about you both is that when I met you guys before virtually, you guys just seemed like you guys have a fun time together. Then we got on this podcast earlier today before we even, and I see the energy that you guys both have, smiles in your faces. Toy, you mentioned, am I still happy? Am I still excited to come to work? I can tell that because not just imagine, people when they come to work and they're not happy, just the vibe. You guys don't have that. And I love that you guys almost like brother and sister. Did you guys say that? It's like almost a brother sister
I'd
relationship
say
that you
that's
guys have?
accurate. I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, I could tell that. I could see it.
Well, I
Um,
would I would ask Toya to talk about her time, and her degree in literature, arts and literature and theater. I mean, I think that plays a role as well.
what? You guys are both
I'm
theater
kidding.
kids?
I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm a theater kid. I love theater.
No,
You guys were in
I,
theater, Jack?
no, I think I was being facetious and saying it's all an
Oh,
act, but in
oh,
reality,
got it, got it, got it.
it is genuine. I think that there actually is chemistry, and you need chemistry, especially at this
You
level.
do. You
You need
do.
to be you need to be able to read the other person's mind without them saying a word, right?
And you need
Whether
to be
that's
able to be challenged at every
yeah,
level. Jack does not mind being challenged. I don't mind being challenged. Being challenged is the greatest thing because when you're challenged, you grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a competitive person, so if you ever tell me something, I'm like, well, how can I up that, right? And it's not because I want to be better than you, but it's just that you need that competition in life. You need that challenge, as you mentioned. Anytime I went into the corporate world, or even now, I sit on boards. I always say, I don't want to just sit here and fill up a seat. Like, what do we need to do, and how do I become better? If I'm getting bored and I feel like I'm not growing, this is not for me. And it looks like Toya and Jack, you guys are really growing something that really needed it, and now you're figuring out how do we continue to move forward. And what I really love about this organization is that you guys are actually a for-profit, but really kind of almost operate with a nonprofit heart. Like, can we kind of unpack that? What does it mean to operate for a for-profit with a nonprofit heart?
want me to go?
You can start.
Or Toya, go ahead. Whatever.
I
Ladies
think
Doesn't
we're
first,
matter.
Toya.
I think
Ladies
we're
Ladies
first, she
mission
first.
I
said.
There
think
you
we're
go.
mission oriented. We're mission oriented, and when everyone's moving together in the same direction, in the name of children, families, and communities, it's easy to do. The profit isn't the goal, the mission is the goal, and you don't need to be nonprofit, not for profit to do that.
Hmm. And I'm
So,
guessing you agree with all that, Jack.
oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that you know people believe that if you're a nonprofits, I'm not knocking them at all, right? They do an amazing work, right? Sometimes there's some roadblocks, right, or bureaucracy or red tape in order to move things forward in a quick manner, right? Or sometimes you need to pivot, right? Especially leadership, right? Like someone like Toya or our regional management, they need to be able to pivot in the moment. And sometimes in a nonprofit where you have layers and layers and layers of approval that have to go through, by the time you get the approval, it's too late, right? Or you have to pivot to the next thing. So I think that's one concern about a nonprofit versus for profit. And again, it's all how you're structured, right? You can have that in a nonprofit, or you can have it on both ends. But I think, like you said, our heart is in the nonprofit space because I think people associate nonprofit as impactful organizations, and for profit is you know, potentially a negative connotation is like, oh, they're just there to make money. So I always try to stress that we operate as a for-profit in terms of agility, but our heart is in the right place, and we operate as a nonprofit. I mean, as
Okay.
you can see, we care for many
I think,
children, many employees, and
yeah,
many
as you
communities rely
mentioned,
on us.
and I actually keep you this with you, Jack. You mentioned just the kids that you guys serve, nearly 2,000 kids, if I'm not mistaken, with about across 32 locations. What does the scale look like day to day, actually, when you talk about the kids and the impact that you guys are making?
So I want to just clarify that we serve almost 2,000 children today, right? Our capacity is almost 5,000, right? So pre-COVID, we were serving roughly 3,800 children on a daily basis. COVID really did a number on our organization and many industries
Mm.
nationwide, especially from a labor perspective. Unfortunately, the areas that we serve are a little bit lagging in terms of getting back out there and getting back to work. And many of, the people in our workforce retired, right? Like you had a lot of folks that have been with Brightside for 20, 25 years that are from the community, and this is all they knew of caring for children. And throughout the difficulties of COVID, they're like, okay, I think I'm done, right? Or I think I'm ready to retire and move on to the next stage of my life. And unfortunately, there's today, right? I think many of the younger generation, right, are going into the hot topics, right? Tech, right? AI, right? And not really service-based businesses, especially early childhood education, because of what it means, you know, what's involved on a day-to-day basis, right? They'd rather go sit behind the desk potentially in the computer, right, and have a 9 to 5 job versus taking care of, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 beautiful little kiddos that are, pulling out their legs, screaming, making a lot of noise potentially. And I think we, as an organization, what we're trying to do, Brightside, is trying to change the narrative, so to speak, and say, hey, like, there's actually an opportunity to have a career over here, right? Like you can literally, you want management, we have opportunities for management, right? You want to be a custodian, right? You want to make centers beautiful, right? We have an opportunity for that. You want to be an assistant teacher or a lead teacher, you want to get your degree in education. We'll pay for that, right? There are programs that partner with Brightside that our teachers can go for continuing education for free, not pay a dollar out of pocket. So I think it's just
Wow.
about changing the narrative, what it means. I think there's plenty of people out there that want to give back. They just don't know how to, take their first step. And it's important because that early childhood is needed.
They don't know what they don't know, and that's
Yeah.
why we love to share and have these conversations because the resources are at our fingertips, and sometimes people don't even know that. Like, what? I can get my schooling paid if I just join? Like, this is crazy, and I can imagine a lot of people would if they knew that. So I love that you kind of mentioned that.
Yeah.
And beyond education, Toya, how do you address the basic needs, safety, nutrition, security for the students?
As Jack mentioned, we have the good fortune to have many, many employees here who still have that. One of our regional directors just had her 20-year anniversary on Friday. Our director of compliance has been here 25 years. So we have a very robust policy and procedure manual. We have very robust training for our teachers, and we value their education so that they can keep the children safe and follow the regulations and guidelines. And, all of our locations, and I don't know if we mentioned this, Pennsylvania has a rating system, a quality rating system, and all of our locations are rated star 3 and star 4, mostly star 4, which are the highest quality ratings. So we don't just, intend to meet the guidelines, we intend to exceed them, and we do.
I love that. Toy, you also talk just now. You mentioned these people 20 years, right? Decades plus in there. You also talked about empowering directors to move up. Why are you okay with good people leaving?
I think that not all turnover is bad turnover. When I look across the state at people who came from Brightside, the largest portion of our state inspectors came from Brightside. A lot of partners came from Brightside and the partner organizations. I think that if you want to open your own, if you want to open your own child care center, come work at Brightside. We'll teach you how to do that. We consider ourselves, that's a service that we give to the community. So when I'm interviewing, sometimes assistant teachers, I always ask what their goals are. And if their goal is, sometimes they're hesitant to say it. I say, do you want to open your own childcare? If
Hmm.
you want to open your own childcare and you want to do it right, this is the place to do it.
And Jack, at one point I thought this was like a franchise model, right? And you mentioned it is like a franchise-like model for empowerment. What does that actually look like without calling it a franchise?
I think it's precisely what Toya just mentioned, right? Empowering our leadership to operate with a sense of autonomy, but knowing that they have the support of the regional and executive management team. So that, I mean, our directors are effectively business people, right? Running multi-million dollar businesses potentially, if they're full with children. Like they need to understand the basics of education, right? And also management of a business. And if we're able to bridge the two and give them the skills or the tools necessarily, and they latch onto it and they're able to run with it, that is the biggest form of success for us because now they are able to go take those skills and go anywhere with it, right? Open their child care center or go into another industry potentially if they find it attractive. Um, we're not a franchise model because we're not charging franchise fees to our academy directors, right? So you limit that from you limit that and you give them the opportunity to grow and make decisions. And again, like you said before, empower them is effective. Like you're in charge. Like you need to know how to have conflict resolution, management, P&L management, budgeting, all these things. If we can do that successfully, right? If we can do that, and
Yep.
I think we're trying that, right? We're trying to build a program. Going a little off topic over here, but part of our training and development that we'd like to implement is childcare management today, the way it looks like, they don't necessarily have those business leadership skills because it's highly focused on the educational side, right? And rightfully so, right? We have to ensure that they're getting the proper education, right? But a piece of that that's missing is that business acumen, right? And if we can, like I said before, bridge the two together, get them the skills that they need, like they can just, you know, uh, it can be amazing for them and for any organization and for childcare as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So
Have you guys been seeing a lot of the internal team taking on what you guys are offering? Going and running their own locations. Are you seeing that often now? That you guys are implementing these nice, beautiful opportunities for individuals?
I mean, for me, it's never enough. I mean, yes, we are seeing people move up. We're seeing people leave the organization and come back at roles higher than they were in before. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
And we are highlighting our internal employees who have moved up through the ranks. But for me, it's never enough. Until every teacher who wants a degree has one, until every teacher who strives to be a regional staff member is here or elsewhere, and I'll even connect them with another organization if it's for growth. Until everybody that wants to grow is doing it, it's not enough. And yes, we're seeing them take advantage, but I'd like to see more.
That's good. I mean, to think that you guys are not just working with our youth, but you guys are also working with our, and I won't say elders, but our adults, right? And allowing them to see more within them, allowing them to know their worth. A lot of times people will work and almost run everything and be damn near a entrepreneur within four walls. And what happens when we actually give them the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and see things they've never seen or believe in ways they've never believed. So having Toya and Jack at the head of that table is to just kind of curate this is actually amazing because not a lot of organizations, not a lot of companies would sit here and be that bold to say, hey, I'll help you go find an opportunity at another organization because I know that one, you either come back or it would inspire you to do more of what you're doing. I love that. I love that you guys are not selfish in that way. So that's amazing. Kudos to both of you guys to do that. I also think it's amazing that you guys are kind of in this space of technology, innovation, and that human-centered approach, as we were talking about last time. You rolled out tablets and robotics classes, but you're cautious about AI in childcare. What? Why? I give this to, I'll give it to Jack. I give it to Jack.
yeah. So yeah, as we mentioned in the past, is we want to be at the forefront of technology. We're constantly pushing ways to innovate our processes and streamline, get better reporting, dashboards, right? To go back to what we were saying before, is have insight into what we do every day and what every decision that we make today impacts at a global level, right, or a broader level, right?
Hmm.
So what I'm concerned about AI, right, or utilizing AI from an educational perspective or a curriculum perspective is like, obviously that's the way of the future, and we're going to have to adapt and figure out ways how it benefits us, in the manner that we think it makes sense. But I don't want to remove that human connection, right? And I think that many of our children, many of our families, right, when they have that human interaction, right, or social interaction with their teacher, right, the teacher that's with the child, probably more than the parent is, right? If you think about it, right, if they come every
100%.
single day, and we serve that they could be here 12 hours a day, right? Um, I can tell you so many stories that we've heard that, later on in life, again, I've been with Brightside since 2016, but even over the span of the last, 9 years or so, I've heard stories of parents or of teachers or of children, how they still communicate and are in touch with their teacher back in preschool, right? Because they have such an impactful, they play such a pivotal role in their life and shaping them for that K through 12 education. So I don't want to,
Yeah.
I want to limit the extent of AI where it doesn't have that genuine feel or that human interaction and social interaction. And in addition to that, is right, all of our staff, we hire specifically from within our community, right? So we have 24 sites. So to give you an example, in Philadelphia, we hire within a mile radius or so of each of our sites, right? So we're not bringing in teachers or educators from 5, 10, 15 miles away. They're there. They know the community. They understand the
Mhm.
community. They may even know the child and their family, right? How do you get that from AI, from a computer, right?
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. No, I agree with you. One, let's talk about teachers. Very underrated at their job, as you mentioned. We'll spend, as students growing up, we spend 8, 9 hours at a job, but like that was our families, right? These teachers were our families as well.
Yeah.
And you are right. I still speak to teachers today that were very impactful and said things to me that maybe at the moment I wasn't really hearing or listening to. But as I continue life itself, I'm like, wait a minute, that teacher was on to something. And I remember her saying that. I mean, even at 20 something years old, when I started a nonprofit, I brought my old English teacher from 11th grade. Like, so yeah, you're 100% sure. I remember going back to my old elementary to just go read books to the kids because I knew the teacher and I wanted to, show love that way. So shout out to all the teachers that do the work. Very, to me, still underpaid, still undervalued in a sense. I 100% agree with you that we still need that human to human interaction. Even this, like, this is great virtually, but I can imagine if we were in person, the energy in the room is a little bit different. And I love that. But I think, Toya, I come to you. I still see it as taking an organization, and I would say, let's not talk about the kids, but the back end, admin, taking repetitive tasks and automating a lot of the things so we could do more of the things that we love and less of the things that just drives us a little bit crazy. Toya, do you feel that there's AI that could be helpful in those spaces?
I think we're exploring some of those things. I'm excited that we rolled out the new Samsung tablets, and I'm excited that we're going to roll out facial recognition for clocking in and out. So I think we're exploring those things, and to whatever extent we can automate back end tasks, Jack is fully supportive of.
Got it. And you talked about the Samsung tablets and the robotic partnerships. What impacts have they actually made in the classrooms, Toya?
We rolled out a pilot program with the Brooklyn Robotics Foundry. Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Snow. And we have other locations that are asking for it. I want the robotics program. We rolled out the pilot over the summer. We were able to serve 16 children at 2 locations, and they loved it. Their families loved it. They came in and participated. It was fantastic. So we're looking at expanding the project to encompass some of our locations that have older children who are really looking to pursue that avenue.
I love that. And you guys are just as amazing. So, Jack, you guys didn't just stop at childcare. You guys expanded into autism and behavioral services. What sparked the next evolving space in your organization?
Well, so back in 2018 or so, we started seeing an uptick in children that were coming along with, IEPs or complex IEPs, individualized educational plans. And we used to farm out, so to speak, or seek vendors that would come in, assess the children for services, right? And just to get that assessment would take months because of the backlog and the enormity or the veracity of the amount of children, and I'll talk about Philadelphia in particular, right? That we're in need of these services, right? And you know, me not lying, like I'm not one to stand aside, so to speak, right, and say, hey, let's just wait until they come in, where our teachers are burning out, the children aren't getting the necessary services that they're needing, the parents are frustrated with us, right, blaming us that we're the roadblock to them getting the proper services for their children.
Hmm.
I decided in that moment, I'm like, okay, we need to do something about it, and we started looking into mental health and behavioral health programming to see how we can complement Brightside and getting those services expeditiously, and sort of being in control of the destiny, of our own destiny, and not relying on these third party sources. Um, COVID came, so that sort of took a back burner. But post COVID, like we're up and running. Shout out to my team at Kutamani Developmental Services. They're doing a phenomenal job in increasing awareness and also providing adequate services for the children that are on the spectrum. Um, and it's just amazing. And I think it's really helping not only the children, but it's also helping Brightside because now we have one-on-one support in the classroom, group therapies, and yeah, that's
I love
what's
this.
next.
I
I don't
love
know.
that.
I gotta think about it.
No, I just, I love how you just having a conversation with you guys today and in the past, how you guys really balance each other out. Jack, you're definitely the vision, and Toya with the operations. Toya, how does that partnership play out day to day?
There's fireworks all the time, all the time. Jack is fast and furious, and I'm a little bit more slow and even. But together we get it done. We have the same vision for the children and families and communities in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We have the same vision. So day to day, there's fireworks on a regular basis, but in a good way.
Jack, one of the things you mentioned when I used to hire people back in the days, I mean, I still hire people, just not at the level that I used to, but I worked at a sub shop. And one of the biggest things that I would always say is that you have to have sense of urgency, especially food, right? Like you have to have a sense of urgency. People here in a sub line, they got 30 minutes on break. Like you got to move fast. So I love that that's your thing, sense of urgency. But it looks like Toya's kind of also the realistic person. Like, Jack, I hear you, but it ain't happening that time. So Toya's definitely, holding you accountable. Do you agree, Jack? She's your accountability partner?
I think there's a good balance. I think she, sometimes tries to slow me down. But sometimes she says, okay, I think you're right. But many times she's able to, I guess, broaden the scope, so to speak, come down to the earth and actually have a plan, right? Because at the end, sometimes I might spit something out and say, hey, let's do it and let's do it tomorrow. But realistically, it can't be done till next week. So, and that's fine. And I think that when Toya comes back and say, hey, I'll get it done, I'll execute, but this is the cadence that it has to go in order to effectively execute, to totality or with integrity. And I'm okay with that. That's fine as long as we're executing.
And I love it. I
Excellent.
love Jack's passion to get it done. I love it. And I think as an organization, especially education, and I think coming from a similar background in healthcare that is equally as sometimes cumbersome and slow, I think we are very, very agile. And I love that about what we do.
You guys are amazing. I need to join the team. You guys are having too much fun. Like literally, you guys are having too much fun at work. Like, are you guys really getting work done? Is the question.
No, just
Um,
no,
no,
just
no,
fun,
Jack.
just fun all day, fun in the sun.
I love it. No, I definitely love it. As leaders as well, to have another leader that could really just um, fill your cup. right? A lot of times we're the ones always pouring into somebody else's cup, but it really seems like you guys as leaders fill each other's cups. I think it's amazing. It allows really the engine to keep going when you have that sense of leadership at the top that really care for the staff, that really care for the kids, care for each other. You guys can definitely see that through just conversations, the impact that you're making. And I think when we talk about Brightside and kids look back years from now, what do you want them to say about Brightside?
I want them to say somebody cared about me. Somebody cared about me, and that was my foundation. That's when I knew I could be something amazing, anything I wanted to be.
And Jack, what do you want to hear?
It's not so much say as it is do, right? Like, I'd love to see them actually be successful, right, in their lives, right? And that's a result of Brightside, right? So then we prepare them for taking the next steps and for having that confidence, right, to achieve whatever they want to achieve, and that's, later on in life. What I'd like them to say is, where do I apply for a job at Brightside? I want to come back. That would be nice.
Okay.
But at the end of the day is just knowing that they're in a good place, whether it's financially, whether it's through their ability to go to college or things like that. Whatever they want to do, like that's the most rewarding piece of it.
My next question, I love so much about both of you. Representation matters to me. You have Jack, that is a male in an educational, right? Like in an educational space, which you don't see often. Then you have Toya, that is a woman of color, also sitting in a very high seat. That if she wanted to kick Jack out to be the CEO, that she could be the CEO of this organization. What does representation matter in leadership? Why does it matter for both of you personally? Because I think you guys both agree that it does matter. And Toya, women's first, right, Jack? So hold off. I know you got something to say there. Toya, what you got to say?
I think that representation is so important. I think that a lot of times people don't understand what it is they can do. One of the things that I often say in interviews is, you should be interviewing me. We're interviewing each other to see if it's a fit. I think it's about empowering people to understand that you can do whatever it is, and there is no limit. So I think it's very, very important.
I love it. And Jack? From a male perspective, man, like I know you probably work with a lot of CEOs in the same space and probably not a lot of the male. How does that also play a factor in representation to you?
Being a male in the education space, um, there has to be more of it, right? And I don't think there's enough, which is a little bit mind-boggling because it's such a rewarding space, um, that I'd like to see more males in the space come on board, whether it's teachers or management, whatever it may be. I think from a diversity perspective, is I think throughout every organization there has to be different subsets of backgrounds, to show, like to Toya's point, is to show like, hey, anyone could be anything, anyone can do anything, and to Toya's point, I say the same thing. You're interviewing me, right? In other words, like, one day I hope you take my job, right? To me, that's success, right? I see that as success. I'll find something else, right?
Yeah.
But that means that you grew up in an organization that we were able to foster that career growth for you. Um, and most people are afraid to do that, right? Or they don't believe in themselves. They're not confident. I just want to, Efrain, you don't mind, go back to something you said earlier about the critical role teachers play, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's sometimes an enigma why, like, they don't understand the impact that they have coming into work every day and providing safe, reliable care for these children and what it means. They don't see it every day, right? Because they just look at it as a job potentially. And I think the industry as a whole needs to stop calling these individuals staff or employees, right? I think they need to be called professionals or educators, because at the end of the day, and they
Correct.
need to be treated as such, right? Just like the K through 12 education system, they're regarded as educators or professionals in their field. That has to be done in early childhood. Early childhood is before K through 12, right? So you obviously need a good foundation. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that.
And I think you guys are doing amazing. I mean, some of the things that really I thought about as you guys were saying is hiring from within a mile of the actual facility. Like, because now someone understands the upbringing in that community. And my time, and I remember really high school where I've had counselors tell me that school wasn't for me. I might as well get a 9 to 5 job. Those people won't they weren't there for, as we talked about, for the students, because who would tell a student that, and I think that we are starting to see, um, I think, a shift in what it looks like for our educators, and hopefully at some point that the pay actually matches up with the work that they actually do. I remember one teacher saying, I was a guest speaking to the students, and she said, "Listen, I don't got to be here. My husband makes a lot more money than I do, and I can just sit here and be at home. But I love what I do, and what y'all going to do is respect this man that's here, taking his time out of his day." And when I heard that from her, I'm like, "Damn, she's so right." It's not about the money. These people are doing it truly out of the purpose and the passion and wanting to see someone else be great at what they do. And I think me being one of those also difficult kids at school, it took teachers that understood my background and where I was coming from to realize that me acting out wasn't me being a bad kid, that there was something happening within, my world. And let's have a conversation, pull them aside and figure out, hey, how can we help you? And I love that. I think schools, you talk about behavioral health, mental health, we're starting to see a lot of that. Actually, I just spoke to someone that she's in that behavioral health, mental health space. And I was like, what are you doing with kids in high school? Because those kids, instead of sending them to a dean, we should be sending them to somewhere where they can actually have a conversation and talk about just life. Because a lot of times life do be lifing. And we don't see that in our we don't have these conversations with our youth. No one was talking about therapy, no one was talking about mental health, and you
Hmm.
guys are starting this now, right? Like, how amazing of an organization. And this is only, you guys are only scratching the surface, right? Pandemic did kind of hinder a lot of the growth that we were having, but I'm pretty sure that you guys brought it back to life, and the wheels are still get a little oil on it to keep it going and moving forward. I love that. I love that, Jack. I love that, Toy, that you guys can come together and think, not selfishly, but think about the future of our children, because it's not about
Yeah.
us, and you guys
I
know
mean,
that it's not about
I
us.
think
We've
I
lived
think you
life
said it
already.
succinctly, right? Punitive action, right, is not a way the
Hmm.
child's going to change, right? It's actually
Yeah,
understanding what they're going through and redirecting or helping them through that that's going to change them.
correct. Jack, before we get into that blind question, because we're about to start wrapping it up here, what's your message to leaders about thinking holistically, kids, families, and communities together?
Leaders within early childhood,
Yeah, we could talk to your
I
space.
yeah. So I think leaders within this space, they have to fully understand, um, take a holistic view or a holistic approach to everybody that serves this child, right? Ultimately, the child is the grounding of what brings everyone together, right? But it's the surrounding and the environment that this child is exposed to that's going to impact this child for their life. And as leaders of the organization caring for these children, we need to, I guess, broaden our horizons and understand those environments and those surroundings that this child is within and take the necessary action or support wherever we may support, whether it's the families, the single parent households, the grandma who's taking care of the child, right?
Hmm.
Um, to help ultimately at the end of the day the child, but also see what how we can support the family too. Um, it's from a management or leadership or with internally. I think we have to constantly be challenging our employees, right, and sort of pushing them towards that growth. I don't think the human nature is to be stagnant, right? I think everybody wants to achieve something better than they when they were yesterday. And
Hmm.
again, they're looking to organizations like us or leadership like us to help them with that and provide them with that support system to do that. And sometimes they just need a nudge or a little convincing, but that's deep down at the end of the day they want to do it.
All right. All right. I appreciate that, Jack. And Toya, for those that are watching and want to know how to learn more about the organization, what social medias, what is the website, where can people find more information?
Brightside Academy is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can find us in any of those places, or you can visit our website at brightsideacademy.com.
And as leaders, are you both on LinkedIn? I think as leaders, people want to reach out to you and probably pick your brain. Are you guys on LinkedIn as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack, you actually over there, Jack?
On
You
LinkedIn,
technology savvy, Jack? Yeah, yeah.
I
All
love
day.
LinkedIn. I
You
love
love LinkedIn. All
LinkedIn.
right, good, good,
Yeah.
good. All right, I asked you guys this blind question, and it's curated really to the both of you guys, and we'll start off with Toya. So you built careers around caring for others people's kids. What's one lesson those kids have actually taught you about leadership and life?
That's a good question. I think, even though I tell you I'm the slow and steady one, my brain is constantly going and I'm constantly moving from one thing to the next. Um, our corporate office is located at the back of one of our child care centers, and I think it's really told me to slow down. If I'm walking by and a child wants to talk, they want to show me something, they're having a hard time, and I see them, I can go in a classroom and spend 20, 30. It's probably the only time when Jack says, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, it was with a child. And he's like, okay, I understand why you didn't answer. But slow down and really be present for the moment.
Love it. And Jack, how about you, man?
Say the question again.
No worries, no worries. So we know that you guys have both cared about kids. What's one lesson those kids have actually taught you about leadership in life?
There's one story that I have that would just
Love it.
resonated with
Tell me the
me, and that
story.
yeah, and has lived with me ever since. Um, I think the overarching concept is no judgment, right? Um, I walked into one of our centers one day, just to do a routine visit, and I see a child, just 7-year-old, hanging on to the academy director's leg, right? Just hugging her. Like we refuse to let go, right? And I'm making eye contact with the director. I'm like, what's going on? Like we're sitting here, like you're supposed to be touring us and my team back here, like, and she's not letting you go. And she gives me that, that wink, like, I'll tell you in a minute, right? So finally, she settled down. She brought her to her classroom, got her situated. She came back out. She's like, yeah, last week that child's dad was gunned down in front of her, right? And to me, that was just so powerful in understanding who you're serving, right? And having that, no judgment is that every single child, every single staff member has a story, right? And you cannot sugarcoat, you cannot paint with a broad stroke everybody in one picture. You need to take every individual for who they are, right? And understand their story, and work with that, right? And I think that has just understanding where you are, right? And understanding how you can impact everyone's life individually, and don't judge.
I love that. Yeah, no, what a good story, and that is so true. You know,
Yeah.
I have a 1 year old and a 4 year old, and me and my wife are scared of putting him out in the educational world. Because we hear things, we see things, and I was always in the public school system, and I loved it. And I think we're in different spaces, but when I hear educators like yourselves, leaders like yourselves that really care, it truly does make a difference in allowing me and others that are watching to realize that there's still people out there that care for our kids while we have to go and sacrifice this and work this 9 to 5 job, sometimes two, to put food on our tables. So I thank both of you guys for being honest, for being in the space that you guys are in, for caring the way that you guys care, and really not just helping the next generation when we talk about kids, but even the next generation of leaders that come across into these spaces. Like that's truly amazing. You guys are doing. You guys think it's just kids, but it's really adults that you guys are inspiring, right? It is families. It's people that work for you now that you mentioned will leave and come back because great leaders. It's not just because of the job they were doing, but what Toya mentioned earlier. I just feel happy coming to work. Like I love this. And if you love something, you will never move away from that. So thank both of you guys for being so honest, being authentically yourselves. You guys are truly amazing, and I can't wait to have this conversation again.